What's going on, guys? The time has come. I've been working on this bait for a couple of years now with Bill Lewis, and I'm really excited to share this with you all. This is another baby of mine, the SB-57. Let's talk a little bit about the name of this bait, and then we'll get into all the features of it. So SB-57, that stands for SB square bill. 57, that's the length of the bait. It's 57 millimeters from the lie tie to the back hook ring right here. One of the most critical pieces of this bait is the bill. Okay, we went with a computer chip board on this particular bait because of the action and the durability. The action in this bait is second to none, man. It gets down there, it hunts, it roots around, has a very bait fish-like action, catches a lot of fish. You'll notice on this bill, it has a coffin style shape. It's kind of unique and it's rounded on the edges. Why we did this is because this bait is pretty much, you can't snag this thing. I mean, it comes over wood, it comes through rock, it bounces around really good. But what makes it unique is it never wants to roll and turn over. You know, some of those baits, you get down there and they start banging on the bottom and then they'll float to the surface. You won't have that problem with the SB-57. Let's talk a little bit about the internals on this bait. I went with a very subtle knocking sound. I didn't want something really aggressive and loud like this traditional rattle trap. I kind of wanted something in that happy median range. So it does have a rattle, as you can hear there. It's just not really loud. A lot of people don't take in consideration when those baits are down there banging around, the hook rings and the hooks chattering together, that's creating sound in addition to the rattles that you have in it. So it can be overbearing sometimes. So I think a subtle rattle is really key. If you were to take a blade and cut this bait right down the middle, what you would notice is we went with a honeycomb pattern on the inside of this bait right here. That's what the walls are made of. What that allowed us to do was make those walls thinner, and that's where that action comes from. So not only do you have thin walls, you got the honeycomb shaped plastic supporting it, very durable. I've cast this bait up on the bank so many times, missed the water, right? We've all done that. Smack, you smack the rocks. I'm not worried about cracking this bait. It's extremely durable. It comes right out of the pack with number 4 hooks. These are short shank mustad hooks. I like to upgrade these to owner hooks personally. ST35 is my preference, but this bait will catch them right out of the pack. Number 4s as well. Most baits in this size come with number 6 hooks standard. We went with a number 4, a bigger hook, more aggressive barbs. I feel like you'll catch a lot more fish and land a lot more fish. So this is my new baby. I hope you guys enjoy her. Her name is SB-57. We're gonna take her for a whirl on the water. All right, guys, we just pulled up to our first spot. I'm gonna show you guys one of the key features that I look for when I'm square billing. This is an obvious one. Every lake in the country likely has it. It's called riprap. And basically it's just big, bulky chunk rock that's placed in different situations by man to keep, prevent erosion, to keep banks intact, things like that. Great habitat for bass. Let's check it out. All right, so this is a really key situation. Riprap is really good. A lot of chunk rock, a lot of hiding places for shad, bluegill, crawfish, things like that. And a square bill is a perfect selection for this situation because of the deflection. We spoke about this before. And with a bill like this, that computer chip, very durable, rounded on the edges, is gonna deflect off these rocks really well, so I'm not worried about getting snagged. Let's talk a little bit about boat positioning. When I get up on these places like this riprap bank, you don't want to stay really far out and make those perpendicular casts like this. I see people doing that a lot, and basically you're keeping your bait out of the strike zone more than you're keeping it in the strike zone. My recommendation is to bring that boat in a little tighter to the bank. That way you keep that bait in the strike zone a lot longer, and now you're making more so parallel casts versus perpendicular. I find that to be a lot more successful when I'm square billing. So right now I'm casting out and I can feel with my rod tip that bait rooting around, banging those rocks. And that's what you want to feel because that's what's going to trigger the strikes. And another thing too, with this computer chip board, it's really sensitive as well as durable. So I can feel the difference if I'm hitting rocks or it changes, the bottom composition changes, mud, sand, or wood, totally feels different. But right now I know for sure I'm banging rocks and it's like any given turn of the handle, I'm gonna get a bite. All right guys, so I'll show you guys the riprap situation. Here's another scenario that I wanna show you guys that your average everyday fisherman would likely fish a jig, a Texas rig worm, a drop shot, something like that. But in my mind, this is an ideal situation to throw a square bill. So we got a walkway coming down into the water right here. Looks like it goes down about 3 foot. What I want to do with this square bill is throw on the other side of that walkway and then crawl that square bill up over the stairs. And then as it starts to track back down on the opposite side, a lot of times that's where the strike will occur. And again, this is another target that you're gonna make multiple casts at, and you're gonna do different angles. You wanna agitate that bass if he's down there, or give him a different ambush point to get him to bite. All right, so the first cast I'm throwing completely across this walkway here, and I'm gonna bring it across the deepest part of that walkway. And then what I'll do is, after I come in contact, I just hit it right there. I'll come off the other side of it, give it a little stop and go, a little pause. Sometimes that'll trigger a strike, and then I'm gonna work my way shallower. All right, so I'm gonna go up the ladder next, a little bit shallower. All right. Then I'll go right through the middle, and then that's it. And then what I'm gonna do is I'll get on the other side of this again, and then I'll hit it from the opposite direction. All right, guys, so here's another situation, an area that I really enjoy throwing a square bill on, and that's laydowns. Pulling up right now, I'm gonna show you guys how I fish it and how I make this 4-wheel drive crankbait work around wood. All right, guys, so I'm pulling up on this laydown right here, and I'm gonna show you my exact cast, how I break down a laydown, and where I like to place my bait. So the very first cast I'm gonna make is gonna be across the laydown, come up over the main beam that's coming down into the water, deliberately deflect my bait off of that cover, and then continue it going back down. And in doing so, you can kind of do a stop and go retrieve too. Once it hits that cover, you might wanna pause it for a second and then pick that bait back up with the retrieve, because that's when that fish is gonna strike. So here we go. That's cast number 1. Straight across that laydown. I'm getting ready to come over it. Boom, I just hit it, stop and go, pick it back up. And I'll make a couple casts in that range. Off to a little deeper, a little to the right, out towards deep water a little bit. Boom. Ooh, I thought I had one there. Stop and go. Keep rolling. And again, this is the beauty of the square bill, because you can throw it in that wood like that, and I'm not worried about getting snagged. And then I'm just making my way down that laydown. Eventually, I'll be all the way out on the tip of it. I'll roll it right across the very front of it, and at its deepest point, hit the very tips of those branches, and keep doing it. And you'll notice I've yet to get snagged. And that's why we design a bait like this that you can put in places like this that you can't put other baits. All right, guys, let's jump into the colors. I tried to keep things relatively basic, didn't want to get too in depth, but we jumped out with 10 colors that I feel like will have you covered from coast to coast. So let's just take a standardized forage for bass. You got crawfish, bluegill, shad. Those are the 3 mainstays for bass coast to coast. I don't care where you live. You can get into the, you know, all sorts of alewives and emerald shiners, and all on the Gulf Coast, they have blue crawfish. And I mean, you can get carried away, blue crab, excuse me. But these 10 right here are gonna get you taken care of. And I'll just jump into a couple of my favorite. This color was a must have for me. This is called chartreuse shiner, black back, chartreuse shad, stain water killer. Anytime you got off-colored water, you can always catch a bass on black chartreuse. That was one that I had to have. Another one that I had to have, you guys know I'm big on crawfish, and this is another stain water. Early season, fish are really honing in on crawfish. This glitter craw is gonna be really hot. Then we got our shads. And then this is one of my favorite. This is sneaky shad. We also got chartreuse shad. And for those real clear water conditions, real natural presentation, we got Tennessee shad. Kind of a black greenish back, white side. Can't go wrong with that. There's some others. You guys be sure to check all these out at billlewis.com. We got you covered. And send me those pictures. Let me see those big fish you guys catch on them.